know those stories of self-sacrifice that invoke feelings of honor and courage and all kinds of motivation that rile up within us. Stories like a father giving up his life for his child, or a soldier giving up his life for his fellow soldiers. Well, today I want to talk about one of those sacrificial stories, the cross of Jesus Christ. See, there's two perspectives we can look through when thinking about the cross of Jesus Christ. Well, the first perspective is through the lens of Jesus, who gave up his own life for us. He sacrificed himself for us. But why? Why did he have to do it? I want to walk you through a possible conversation that could have happened in heaven between God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But before we do that, we need to understand that God is a triune God, meaning he is the Trinity, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Jesus is not God the Father, and the Holy Spirit is not God the Father. They are three separate beings of the same God. However, the three are completely united and in one accord. They know each other's thoughts and they have each other's essence. All three have always been around and will always be around. So Jesus did not come into existence when he came to be born of the Virgin Mary. He has always been there with the Father. Let me set the scene for you. Man has just rebelled against God, and God had to separate himself because of his perfection and his holiness, but he still loves his creation, his most prized creation, humanity. God didn't want to leave him this way. And so he approaches the Trinity with this question: what are we going to do? He says, I love them, but I can't be with them because they are sinful. You see, God's heart was broken when we sinned against him. And Jesus says, we need a rescue operation. And the Father concedes and says, perfect, but who's going to go? No one is good enough. No one is worthy enough, not even one. But Jesus says, with the most humble of heart, I'll go. Can you imagine what it must be like to be wrapped in divinity, in eternity, in heaven, and now saying, I'm going to come to earth to be born of humanity, taking upon the finiteness of flesh, to die on a cross. Again, Jesus says, I'll go, and the Holy Spirit says, I'll go with him. Can you imagine, though, the burden of the Father? You see, we really respect fathers who give up their own lives for their children, but rarely, if ever, you will see a father giving up their only begotten son for a criminal. The father looks at his son and says, do you know what this means? Father, I know the cost. The cost to you and the cost to me. I'll pay the price. I'll pay the penalty for sin. I'll do it. They're worth it. The Father knew he couldn't go himself. He is only spirit. He knew that he would need an intercessor, a go-between between sinful humanity and a holy God. And he knew that the only possible person is his only son, who would go down to earth and wrap himself in humanity, to die a sinner's death, to pay the ransom and pay the penalty of sin. In essence, Jesus had to become sin to be put to death on a cross so that he could defeat it through the resurrection. The Father ponders such great a cost. He would have to bankrupt heaven by sending his only begotten Son down to earth to pay a debt he didn't know. to save a people who rebelled against him. So with an extremely heavy heart and burden, the Father concedes to Jesus' request and says, "Son, I send you to rescue our people." So I make this video to maybe shine a new light on what it took for Jesus to come down to save us. He not only had to sacrifice himself, but the Father, had to give up his own Son for us. The dynamics of the cross was a huge burden, but I'm glad he took it instead of me.